This is my most anticipated release of the year, hands down, number one. This is it.
I got my head out the sunroof, I'm blasting my favorite tunes. I only got one thing on my mind. You got me stuck.
Hello, welcome to today's video. My name is Andrea and you should go ahead and hit the subscribe button and stick around for a while. But today I'm going to be telling you guys my most anticipated new releases of 2022. I'm gonna be honest, there aren't too many books that I am anticipating this year. I don't know if it's just that I haven't heard of some really good ones or the authors that I love aren't coming out with a lot of new books, but you know, the ones I do have, I am so excited for, so I'm gonna share those with you. But I only have 8, so maybe that's kind of a lot. I don't know. I feel like last year I had like a lot of books last year had a lot of books that were coming out last year were like sequels and the end of series and stuff like that. This time I feel like we have some continuations, we have some new series starting, so let's just get into those. I'm going to go through these in publication order by chronological date. Does that even make sense? I think that made sense. First one is going to be coming out on February 1st, and that book is This Woven Kingdom by Tahereh Mafi. This Woven Kingdom is inspired by Persian mythology, and it is of course a fantasy. One of the biggest things about this book that I heard that made me really like die to get it is that it has a forbidden romance, and I love Tahereh Mafi. I love the Shatter Me series. I love how she writes romance, so her writing a forbidden romance is going to be the best thing ever. I cannot wait. I think Tahereh Mafi is somebody who writes fantasy very accessibly. Like, anybody can get into her fantasy worlds. They're not too complex, and maybe she's gonna change that up with this one, but from Shatter Me, from that world building, it's not too intense. So I feel like this is a good fantasy for people who maybe want to try out fantasy or want to read something with forbidden romance but that has a little bit of something extra, like the fantasy aspect, the fighting, the empires warring and all that stuff. So I feel like this is going to be a good book in general, and I can't wait to get it. It is so close to coming out, so you bet I will be getting that book. Okay, the next book I have on my list comes out on February 15th, and that book is Crescent City 2, House of Sky and Breath. I forgot what it was called for a second because I honestly just call it Crescent City 2. But anyway, that book is by Sarah J. Maas. It is the second book in the Crescent City series, and I am very excited, if you cannot tell. I love Sarah J. Maas. I think personally she's very talented. I think that she writes fantasy well. I think she writes characters well. She makes you care about them, which is something that some authors don't do. So I love that about her, and I really did like Crescent City. It had the mega like info dump kind of stuff with the fantasy world building and all that, but the more I think about it, I'd rather have a world be over fleshed out than not fleshed out enough, so I can't really complain. I'm gonna do a reread on Crescent City 1 and really pay attention this time to the world building stuff and not just pay attention to Bryce and Hunt, because that's kind of all I paid attention to the first time. But this time I'm gonna do a reread. I'm gonna be ready for Crescent City 2, cannot wait, and I'm gonna probably get that pre-ordered soon because I have to have that book in my hands as soon as it comes out. The next book comes out on March 1st, and that one is All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir. I love Sabaa Tahir's writing so much. She wrote An Ember in the Ashes, and that series is so good. The quotes in it are so good. I just think she has a great writing style, and she really knows how to write characters too. She's literally one of my all-time favorite authors. But All My Rage is a little bit different, of course, than An Ember in the Ashes, because that one was a fantasy quartet, whereas All My Rage is actually going to be a contemporary novel. From what I've seen about this book, people have said that it's just heart-wrenching, unforgettable, brilliant. They've just said it's so good, and I honestly believe it. I think this is going to be a book that deals with some heavy stuff, but that does it so beautifully and so well, because that's just what Sabaa Tahir does. From what we get of the synopsis, it is a book that spans like multiple generations, but it centers around these two Pakistani teenagers who are best friends until they have like a falling out, and then from there try to find their way back to see if they can ever continue being friends. I feel like that's a very loose basis of what the book is about. I'm pretty sure that it's gonna go into way more than that, but that's just the general plot of what we get, and I don't want to know too much. I want to go into it just expecting nothing and be like eternally surprised, because I feel like I'm going to. So that's All My Rage. The next book on here comes out on May 3rd, and it is Book of Night by Holly Black. Once again, you know, all of my favorite authors I feel like are putting out books, because Holly Black, she wrote The Cruel Prince, she's so good, she's definitely one of my all-time faves as well. And Book of Night is a little bit different because whereas she's usually only written young adult fantasy and middle grade fantasy, Book of Night is going to be adult fantasy, and I cannot wait. I can't believe that we're getting a Holly Black adult fantasy. This is the author that wrote Cardan and Jude. Like, I can only imagine the romance aspect of the book. I can only imagine the fantasy world aspect where she is writing an adult. This book has the potential to be one of my favorites of the entire year, so I honestly have high expectations for it, and I really hope it is. The next book that I am anticipating is Blood Marked by Tracy Deonn. That one comes out on July 26th. It is the sequel to Legendborn. Legendborn was really popular, I believe, at the beginning of last year, and I think it's rightfully so because I really liked Legendborn. It was really good. I listened to it on audio, and I feel like that kind of made me a little bit confused. I was kind of confused about some of the world building aspects, but then I, you know, kind of just figured out as it went along, and by the end I was really impressed with the main character, and I just want more from her. I want to see what's gonna happen in the next one, how the story is gonna go, what is she gonna do. Very excited, can't wait for that sequel. The next one that I am looking out for, but I don't actually know if I want to read it, is Bladebreaker by Victoria Aveyard. How did I forget that? It's coming out on August 9th. I did like, what was the first one called? Realmbreaker. That's what it was. Realmbreaker. I liked Realmbreaker, even though it seems like I know nothing about it because I forgot the name and the author's name, but I did like Realmbreaker. Like, it was honestly an okay fantasy. I know I've seen a lot of hate for it. People think it's really boring, and I can't even argue that. Like, it was pretty boring, but it was just a wholesome fantasy read. Like, it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't of course like a Sarah J Maas fantasy, but it was pretty solid. So I'm excited. I think I will try out Bladebreaker. There were some relationships that were developing. They were in the very early stages of development. Not a lot was happening within the character group, the main cast that we have. So I am interested to see how that goes, and I do want to find out a little bit more about the characters. So I think I will be picking up Bladebreaker. I have 2 more books on this list, and they are both by Cassandra Clare. Okay, let me talk about this first one. This is my most anticipated release of the year, hands down, #1. This is it. This is the moment. That book comes out on November 1st, and it is Chain of Thorns. I'm gonna lose my mind. I'm gonna lose my shit because I cannot wait for the finale, the ending of the Last Hours trilogy. I have so many questions. I don't know what's going on with James and Cordelia, all the Merry Thieves, Lucy. I don't know what's going on. None of us really know what's going on, but I feel like somebody's gonna die. You know, I have a lot of theories, which I'm gonna make a lot of videos when the time comes about Shadowhunters and about the Last Hours, because I am overwhelmed. But I cannot wait for Chain of Thorns. It is not only going to be the ending of a great trilogy, but I really feel like it's going to be kicking us off in a way into the next final phase, which is the Wicked Powers. And I mean, if you've been reading these books since they came out, you've been waiting years and years for the Wicked Powers. I have only been reading these books since 2017, so I haven't been along the entire ride, but I have been here for a while. It's like the end game of Marvel. That is the Wicked Powers for Shadowhunter fans. And I don't know the person I'm going to be when that time comes. But anyway, we're talking about Chain of Thorns. So Chain of Thorns is, like I said, the last book in the Last Hours trilogy. It's going to wrap up all that. That one is Chain of Gold, Chain of Iron, and now Chain of Thorns. So yeah, if you know, you know, because I need to know what's going to happen with James and Cordelia. That's all I'm going to say. Okay, and the final book, the 8th book that I am anticipating, doesn't have a release date because I looked on Cassandra Clare's website and it says it's being released in 2022, but we don't have a release date, we don't have a cover reveal, so I don't know if that's going to happen, but that one is Swordcatcher. Just like Holly Black is releasing an adult fantasy novel, so is Cassandra Clare, and I have been waiting for this because I love Cassie Clare. Like, I love her writing. I think she's improved so much since City of Bones, and I also just think that I love her style. Like, she's funny when she writes, I get it, I just vibe with it. So I can't wait until we get that adult fantasy novel. I really want to read that book, but is it coming out this year? Not confirmed yet, not too sure. Don't take Andrea Reed's word because I'm not sure if I'm right, but I hope I'm right, and I hope that it does come out in 2022, but we will see. That is all the books on my most anticipated releases list of 2022. Let me know down below if I missed any that you think I might like, or if there's some that you're anticipating that you're just really excited about. Please let me know so I can check them out. But I think that's going to be pretty much it, so don't forget to check out my social media and ways to help my channel in the description box. You can always check that out, but that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and